All right, there goes the recording. So let me share my screen. Oh, I think I need to share the other side. Hang on. We'll get this going. There we go. All right. Thank you for joining us for our annual all-member meeting for Ability. We have been trying to hold this really early in December to align with International Day for Persons with Disabilities. And what we're going to cover with you today, I'm going to give a real quick recap of our year in 2022. Alex Martin will then share some of our plans going forward into 2023. We have some special guest speakers in honor of International Day for Persons with Disabilities, so they'll have a short panel discussion. And then we'll end the session with announcing our 2022 Brittany King Offered Leadership Award winner. So without further ado, let's start with our recap. We have had an incredible year, an incredible year. First off, what many of you may not actually be familiar with is that we expanded our mission statement this year. We expanded it to call out mental health, to call out invisible disabilities, temporary disabilities, and we've called out general well-being. This was feedback from DE&I that said, people and not connecting the two. So we revised our mission statement this year on that advice. Our executive sponsors enjoy it as well. It's very long now, but our executive sponsors agree with it. They think we should keep it at this length, that it is truly all-inclusive here without inadvertently leaving a particular segment out. On the right-hand side, we have a bunch of new regional presidents this year too. For the West region, Susan Mazrui is our president. From the Midwest, it's Glenn Bradford. He has two N's in his name, sorry, Glenn. Central region has Valerie Lewis leading them. From the Southeast, we have Elizabeth Cole. And from the Northeast, we have Susan Diegelman. All right, here's our program updates. So Alzheimer's and related dementias. They have had a monthly support call for caregivers for several years now. If you are not familiar with it, now you are. It's a wonderful group. On that call, you have three different types of people. You've got, 1/3 are people who've just received their loved one's diagnosis. They've got a million questions. They want all the answers. They need to know it all. The second third are people who are right in the thick of it with their loved one. They may be transitioning from one phase to a later phase in these diseases and dementias. And they're trying to figure out, at one point, do we decide they can't live by themselves, or I can't take care of them on my own anymore, and they're trying to make that transition. The other third have already lost their loved ones. So it doesn't really matter what stage of the disease or dementia your loved one is in. There is someone on that call who has gone before you and can help you through it. And there's someone on that call coming behind you that you can pay it forward and help them through the phase that they're in. So it's a wonderful call if you're not familiar with it. Green Table Talks. This started brand new this year in January, held the fourth Thursday of every month. We've had to shift it for the holidays in the fall here, but this has been your platform, your sounding board. This is what you as members asked us to do. Y'all had said that it was great to hear a famous celebrity talk about the adversity they're dealing with, but it was so much more important for you to be able to share your own stories and to hear from your own colleagues and managers and directors. And this is your platform for that. So we've covered all kinds of topics this year on our Green Table Talks: sickle cell disease, dyslexia, aphasia, neurodiversity, autism, cancer, just job accommodations, all kinds of things. So it's been really great. We're looking forward to more talks next year as well. Mental health. We got to revamp this program slightly. Members had asked us for a grief and trauma support call. So we stood that up starting in May of this year. And out of that very first call, we had several brave members who talked about how traumatic it is to be an AT&T employee. And it really is true. The endless cycles of surpluses and reorgs and being moved across the country multiple times for work just to keep your job here, it is traumatic. And any traumatic experience, you go through the same grieving process that you would in the death and dying process. You go through the same things. You have to mourn the loss of the life you had before the traumatic event. You have to accept the life you now have after the traumatic event. So these two groups of people really mesh well together. It's been fabulous hosting these calls with Anne-Marie Rogers. And in fact, we started out monthly. We discovered a couple of months into it that y'all needed the calls more frequently than that. So we now hold them every other week. That just started at the start of November, I believe. So every other week now we hold these calls. For neurodiversity, we had several parents who were members of children on the spectrum or other neurodiverse disorders, and they wanted to stand up their monthly support group call. So that got started back up a few months ago. And they, again, have had to kind of shift some of their regular meeting times for the holidays, but it's another great group to get involved in. For our scholarships, oh man, this was a large overhaul. A lot went into overhauling our scholarship program and actually started in 2021. But we were able to award 7 $1,500 scholarships this year. So we increased the amount. We had typically given out a maximum of $1,000 each, but we increased that to $1,500. So that means we have awarded over $100,000 in scholarships since 2008 when we first started doing this. We now allow for video submissions. So it's not just a form, you fill out or hand type. If you want to record a video answering our scholarship questions, that's now a possibility. So we're kind of bringing ourselves into the 21st century here too. We implemented a new, more efficient timeline so we could get awards out sooner. And we have a new fiscally sound method of transferring that scholarship award to the institution that's specified by the winner. So great things are happening in our scholarship program. We have a brand new well-being program. This was another request from DE&I for us to do. So we created it. We have a mindful pause session led by Anne-Marie Rogers. It's a quick 15-minute every Monday and Friday. It's a perfect way to both start and end your day. We also have a longer mindfulness meeting every Thursday led by Vivek Kashyap. So it's a little bit more in-depth one. But the mindfulness community also has Microsoft Teams space. Ashley Santos posts, daily affirmations there. It's a perfect way to keep that positivity in every day. Like just start your day off on a positive note and carry that through. So that's been really, really great. And in case you've been living under a rock, we actually were awarded 2 major awards this year at the EG conference. First one on the left, our Community Impact Award. We won in the inclusion category, and we had submitted collectively our Green Table Talks, our Neurodiversity Support Group, our Grief and Trauma Support Group, and our Wellbeing Program. So those 4 programs together won a $4,000 Community Impact Award. On the right, we won first place in the EG Connected Learning Challenge. Our category was employee groups with less than 5,000 members. And we had about 1% of our membership population volunteer their time and record that time. So we're very, very thankful to our members who stepped up to that challenge to help us win. So $15,000 is what we walked away with. Just absolutely unheard of. Ability hasn't won any of the EG awards in a while. It's been a couple of years. So it was really great to see all of our efforts, come to fruition. We also have confirmed a brand new executive sponsor this year. Gloria Lewis has agreed to join our executive sponsors. We did lose 2 earlier this year, Steve McGaw and Pam Abel. So Alex Martin and I have kind of been on the hunt of trying to get replacements, and Gloria is one of those replacements. So we're very excited to have her. She will help make sure that Ability maintains this strong bond and connection with AT&T's accessibility office. So it's really great to see her come on board. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Alex Martin, our National Vice President, to cover our 2023 plans.
Thanks, Crystal. And hi, everybody. Let me go turn on my camera. Give me a second. Forgive my very deep sounding voice. I'm a little under the weather. But it's good to see you all. Thank you for joining us today, especially during your lunchtime. So first thing I really want to talk about is 2023 is going to be building a lot of momentum off the continued progress that we've really been trying to establish over the past couple of years. And absolutely, we know what we're doing is working because we won some money for it, which is great. So we're currently working with all of our national program leads really to get a nice firm agenda. You're going to see over the next couple of slides that we're talking about pretty much quarters of activities and events and disabilities that we are particularly focusing on because they are an observed day or a recognition of sorts of that we feel are important to highlight during that time frame. As you can see, really January is pretty light on the I don't know what I'm trying to what I need to say there.
There are no major holidays in
No
January
major holidays
for our sector.
Yeah. But as you can see, we got World Cancer Day and Low Vision Awareness Month in February, where we're going to have some events specifically catered that might be a Green Table Talk, or some of our other programs may have some correlating programming tied to it. Same thing with World Storytelling Day. Let's go. And as you see, as the year progresses, we're going to have more and more events. So by the mid to the end of the year, our programming will continue to kick up. We'll be celebrating Volunteer Month in April and Autism Acceptance Month. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, so we usually have a NAMI walk. We celebrate GAD, and this is also when we announce who our scholarship winners are. As Crystal alluded to earlier, with our more streamlined process of going through identifying our winners and making sure that the money's getting to the colleges in time. June is a lot. We have Alzheimer's and Brain Health Awareness Month, Aphasia Awareness Month, World Blood Donor Day, and PTSD Awareness. July is the 35th anniversary of the ADA, which is very important. That I expect us to be doing something special for that as well. August is the International Dog Assistance Week and Senior Citizens Day. September, Suicide Prevention Month, International Day of Sign Languages, and Alzheimer Awareness Month. And in the last corner, this is, again, a very big month for us. We celebrate NDEAM. We have the EG conference. We got Bullying Prevention Month, World Mental Health Day, Invisible Disabilities Week, ADHD, Down syndrome, dyslexia, and spina bifida awareness month. So October
It's a big
again should
one.
be a pretty big month for us as well. November and December things will start climbing down for us. We'll be celebrating Veterans Day and having catered content towards that, partnering with the veterans, I would imagine. Hyperhidrosis Awareness Month, Project Managers Day, World Usability Day in November, and International Day for Persons with Disabilities, and the annual all-member meeting, just like we are on today. We'll be celebrating in December. We really look forward to properly putting on events that make sense and are of impact to our community and our membership throughout each of these months. We have a roadmap and we're looking to execute.
All right. Thank you so much, Alex. All right, we have our special guest with us for a discussion on where culture and disabilities intersect in honor of International Day for Persons with Disabilities. I asked Susan Mazrui, our West Regional President, to kind of lead the discussion and keep the conversation flowing. We have Seth Zimmerman with us, representing Faith at Work, and Celeste Carrasco, representing Hacimos. Rachel Salinas with IK unfortunately had an emergency with her daughter today, so she was unable to join us at the last second. She apologizes, but as I always tell our board members and our program leads, family comes first. So we wish her well and hope her daughter recovers quickly. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, Susan, and you can take over.
Okay, are we good with sound and video?
Yes.
Excellent. First of all, I really want to thank Crystal and Alex for their leadership. The last year has been extraordinarily successful because of the very, very hard work you're doing, and also many, many, many of our members. And what we know about our membership is that when you acquire a disability or you have a child who acquires a disability, it doesn't mean you give up everything else. You don't suddenly just become a blind person or a person in the wheelchair. And so the International Day of Persons with Disabilities is a great opportunity for us to look at how the cultures we live in, both as within the disability community, but also the many other communities we live in, how the perception of disability impacts what we think about ourselves, what we think about others, and also gives us an opportunity to learn from growth areas in those different communities and to work together to make changes where they need to happen. So I'm going to start by asking our guests, Seth and Celeste, to introduce themselves, talk about the communities that you are a part of, and how that's impacted your perception growing up about disability. So Celeste, can you start us out?
Yeah, thank you, Susan. I'm happy to be here today. I am a regional president of the East for Hacemos. And, growing up in the Latino community, it's a challenging conversation when it comes to disabilities. It's not something that it's well accepted culturally, and a person who possesses a disability, so whether it's a visible or invisible disability, is almost regarded as a non-member of the community. And that has been something that I have been trying to reframe within the community and within the conversation. And I look forward to kind of like diving a little bit deeper into that.
And Seth, can you share your experiences, please? And I think you're on mute. I'm not hearing anything. Are other people hearing Seth?
No.
Okay.
No.
Oh, Seth? Okay, well, Seth,
Seth has the
Be-
line slashed through his microphone.
He still looks muted.
Yeah.
It looks like he's trying to work it
Okay.
out, so
Well,
we
he's-
can give
Star
him a
six,
minute.
while
think.
he's working that out, I'll talk a little bit about my
Can you
experience.
hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, perfect.
All right.
Go
give me
ahead,
one-
Seth.
All right. One quick second. Okay. So sorry about that. So I am co-founder and president of Faith at Work. And so the question is a little bit interesting because so I'm Jewish, and I can speak from my experience with how the Jewish community sort of intersects with disabilities. But again, it's narrow, so I'm not here speaking for all faiths in fairness. Much like Celeste was saying, I think that the Jewish community struggles with how to handle disabilities, and it really somewhat depends on the disability. If I think of there's been a lot of change, and like most synagogues now have if for hearing impairments, they have tools. Where I see some of the biggest struggles are when it comes to children and education. Religious education many times is done at a synagogue level, and there tend to be resource constrained, so they're not always able to really effectively provide services. Sometimes they just don't, and it's sort of there's this conflict with, if you think about faith and being inclusive, sort of the differences don't always work. So there's an interesting conflict that's built in sometimes. So it's my experience is that it's very uneven.
My experience as a person who's biracial, my mother is Asian. In her culture, she's Buddhist, and depending on the sect, the perception of disability can vary. And so in some cases, a Buddhist monk might not actually touch a person who is blind. In other cases, just another part of life. So it really varies from one to another. In the Asian culture, in the Japanese culture, it's very hard to get medical information because a disability or a health issue is seen as something that's somewhat shameful. So even getting medical documents up until recently has been quite a challenge. And when someone is dying, for example, they will not tell the person who's dying. Everybody else might know, but not that person. And so there's some interesting aspects of life, death, and disability that really can be based in faith or based in culture. Would you all say that there is a stigma about disability within the cultures you've lived in, and or do you see that the disability community is not open to cultural or other intersectionality conversations? So from the inside and outside, what are your experiences? Have you personally faced a stigma, or can you think of some experiences you can share where it's been one way or the other.
Yeah, and I'm happy to go first. Yeah, we're gonna go with especially from personal experience, I'm gonna go with the disabilities that are cognitive are probably the ones that are the least accepted ones, because it's almost as if I can't see it, it doesn't exist approach. And that's challenging. That's challenging because it prevents people from getting the right access to the tools that they need in order to be successful in life. And being a parent of a child that she received early education intervention, um, I know the power of 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 that access. And within the Latino community, there is a lot of let's just say, let me just bury my head in the sand, and this is going to go away. And the challenge is that the kids do not get the services that they need in time for them to be able to develop their abilities to the fullest by receiving those services. So what I have seen is that there is this rejection of of a unseen disability, and that is probably the most harmful thing that I see happening within the Latino community. Is it's only temporary, it's only it's going to go away, and accepting that there are services out there that could help, whether it's a child, whether it's an older child or an adult, and 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 that it's really eating up at the community currently. And that's something that bringing awareness, and I see a lot of the groups bringing awareness to these unseen disabilities in a new light.
And do you face any pushback when you try to introduce disability into some of the
Oh,
groups that
yes.
you're engaged with?
Absolutely, there's always pushback. It's almost like there's nothing wrong, right? Like you are kind of like, as if I am looking for trouble. And I've seen this, and not that there's a direct correlation, but there is a correlation of acceptance. I saw it in the LGBT conversation, whereas that if we don't talk about it, it just kind of goes away. And to me, it's more of, if we don't talk about it, we are creating these spaces void of information and acceptance. And that to me is important, because there's so many members of our community that are now living in isolation without the services that they need. And that to me is heartbreaking, and it's not something that I necessarily want to perpetuate. I want to put a stop to it.
And Seth, please go ahead.
Yeah, so I guess I see it a little bit differently in the Jewish community. I don't know that I would say that I think there's a stigma. At the same time, I don't know that there's any effective action. And I also think that there's also a generational aspect. If I look at parents with young children now, they tend to be much more vocal advocates for their children than perhaps when my generation. All right. So I think there's the generational piece. I don't think, like, I can't say that I saw or experienced like from the faith perspective, ignoring or saying, well, trying to hide the problem or say the problem doesn't exist. It's just that I don't know that the faith community themselves were equipped to deal with it. So they would help find other services or other places to get services. But I think it historically has been quite difficult for a child with some sort of a developmental disability to receive a Jewish education. Most of the Jewish schools are just really not equipped to deal with it. So it's left to the public schools and other services. One of the things that I think, I was listening that as Alex, you were going through sort of the month by month, and it's just how do we all work together to create the awareness? Once you create the awareness, it becomes harder to ignore, I think. So I think it's one of the really great things that Ability does, and it was truly the reason that we started Faith at Work is we're not trying to kind of recruit to one faith or another. We don't really even care if you align to a faith, but we need to know about each other. And if we don't know about each other, then it's hard to support each other.
I'm going to flip the question a little bit around. Many of the independent living leaders were children of Holocaust survivors. And Judy Human is one, Neil Jacobson, and they attribute their strength and their perseverance to the sense that they were pushed to be survivors, to be advocates, to do what they need to do in that strength. And that idea of it's up to you to succeed, and your power in that was something that was transferred to them and helped them become leaders. And I've had a similar experience as a parent of a wartime survivor. When they said, what do you want your children to be? It was not, I want a boy or I'm healthy or a doctor. It was survivors. My mother would literally say, I want my children to be survivors. Do you think that you have gained things from your culture or your religion that have helped you understand, deal with, fight for disability rights, individual rights for people you love?
That's a great question. And so yes, and I need to think about why I said yes. I guess so I've grown up around other Holocaust survivors, and I mean, that's a just a horrific thing, and to ever have an opportunity to speak with someone, you learn what survival really means. But I think there is you look around and you say, well, there are just some things that are right, and for someone who can't advocate for themselves or needs some help advocating, it's sort of a moral obligation.
Mm-hmm.
So yes. So, but it's interesting, Susan, that does not then help resolve this conflict that I believe still exists between what sort of the true religious part of the Jewish community is able to offer to especially people with hidden disabilities.
Mm-hmm. So there's a difference in the understanding of visible and invisible disabilities.
Yeah, there's a difference in sort of the execution of this. What do you do about it? You know, it's, I think everyone says, yeah, there's an issue. Sometimes there's more of a willingness, well, maybe not willingness, but there's more call to action in
Mhm.
some cases than others.
And Celeste, I know within many Asian communities, you have an issue of the idea of independent living being an anathema. It's why would you go out and live on your own when you have family? So there's kind of a conflict there. I'm wondering if you see any of the same type of thing um, in Latino communities.
Absolutely, absolutely. There is the lack of appreciation for the ability to live an independent life is it runs rampant within the Latino community, and it's and I don't know what triggers that. I don't know if it's the fact that we have lived in intergenerational households for generations, um, or if it's uh, a lack of belief that they are capable of taking care of themselves. But I actually see that as part of the culture itself, because I'm an adult and my mom still feels that I can't take care of myself. So I'm going to go with that. May be a cultural thing versus a geared towards a disability. But when a parent sees that the child has a challenge, they are more likely to kick in on that overprotective behavior versus allowing that child to live an independent life. And that hinders the ability of a young adult to be able to pursue their full potential, because I can see Latino parents saying things like, don't go away to school, that's too far, what if something happens to you, and that child may be, let's just say that their runway would be cut very short because of the fears that we possess culturally.
Now, I know you personally travel more places than almost anyone else I know. How did you get past that?
So I have to give credit to my mother, and that's where you know the the abilities to have the narrative changed comes from within each family unit. And I'm a strong believer that we can change the narrative, that we can do something different. And you have to kind of like understand my story in order to understand my mom. So I had an accident when I was very young. I was 5 years old and I lost vision in my right eye. And my mom, being a young mother at the time, 25 years old, she made it a point to make sure that I was never, kind of like tied back or held back because of my disability. And she always pushed me to go further. She always pushed me um, to kind of like face my own fears of spreading my wings head on. And she pushed that so far to the point that I think to this day she's like, I think I pushed you a little bit too hard, to be independent and to be free from any stigmas that you may have. And I try to have these conversations when I meet people that I see may be limiting themselves by whether it's a physical disability or a mental disability, and I share my stories with them so that hopefully they can be inspired to pursue their own dreams, to never be held back by any restrictive, whether physical or mental, um, and to just be the best version of themselves that they can be.
On the Irish side of my family, my father was military. And if you want to have an environment that has very little sympathy, um, his response to any challenge that I face would be, well, at least nobody's shooting at you. So I think that there's also, people who have had some challenges in their own lives, realizing that they can reframe challenges that their children are facing in terms of helping them develop the skills or the strengths to overcome, what they're dealing with. And so you've obviously seen that change, and it's empowered change within your family and are doing so beyond your personal family into the community. And I'm wondering also, you, Seth, if you've had an opportunity to do a ripple effect on your awareness around disability, to help other families. And for both of you, has that skill set been reflected in the workplace? And when do you see it succeeding?
Well, it's one of the most powerful learning experiences, I think, is when you are, when you find yourself in a situation. And our youngest child had some learning challenges when he was young, and sensory challenges. And he's sort of like the model for early intervention. It's sort of whenever, and it's helped make me an advocate, for people I encounter, for friends, people at work who, have a similar situation with a child. It's, get involved. And we're fortunate. We have access to lots of things through our benefits program. So, I consider myself very fortunate that way. It does help me. I learned about something I didn't know about because I needed to. And I think I'm able to hopefully help others who are in similar situations. And for my son, that was 20 some odd years ago, and he's now a successful attorney. And he's sort of here's here's what can happen. So it's a good story. And but I had I not had that experience, would I be able to be as sort of as knowledgeable or helpful? Unfortunately, probably not.
Yeah, it'd be nice if we were born, or given a
Yeah,
handbook on these
right.
things, but we
Yeah,
never are.
exactly.
And Celeste, how about from your personal perspective and cultural perspective?
But can you repeat the question as to what it is that you want me to cover?
Well, if you have, oh, I just heard myself echo. That was weird. Okay. Is anybody else hearing this echo?
Yes.
I don't know why. That's so odd. Okay, so Celeste, has your personal advocacy journey helped you change anything within the workplace? See things that need to be changed in the workplace? And how can you leverage those skill sets and those experiences to help the company become more inclusive, not just with disability, but disability and culture as well?
Oh my
And then you
goodness,
can cure
yes,
cancer. And then you can cure cancer.
yes, and world peace. I got that on my to-do. Um, so the answer is yes, and you know, over my years at AT&T, I have had opportunities, in particular around hiring, um, where you know the hiring decision becomes mine, and I have been put in situations where I was hiring people that had disabilities because they could do the job, and I honestly, that's what I make my decisions on, and and I would have to spend additional time to convince my peers about hiring people with disabilities, because they would have a long list of reasons why that person would not be a good fit for the team. And I think that is the most impact that we can have as a company, is to educate the decision makers, especially the hiring decision makers, as to the importance for having a very clear uh, requirement for job descriptions. If your job description does not require you to, I don't even know what it could
Lift
be.
50 pounds.
And
Lift 50 pounds.
yeah, exactly. Like, it's ridiculous, Susan, how we start to, as a society, put our own um, descriptors on top of very easily filled requirements. But and I'll give you, I'll share the story, because I know that I'm probably beating around the bush, but let me tell you the true story. So I was working at a call center. I was in charge of you know, staffing and making, you know, doing a little bit of everything, but you know, the staffing was pretty much mine. And I would run the interviews, and these folks had to come in and staff the phones and support in a very technical, support our business customers. And as I ran the interviews, I was very focused on their technical skills and their communication skills. And there was this gentleman that had mobility issues, and but he was, you know, he knew the job, he was highly qualified, very very good communicator. So I put it on the hire list, and my peers that were also in the interview, they questioned my decision. And I said, you know, I said, well, help me understand how this person is not going to be able to do the job. And they proceeded down the path of, because this person had mobility issues, that he was going to have a really tough time getting to work. And I said, well, you don't ask anyone else how they're going to get to work. So why is this person going to be any different? And I said, that is really up to the individual to fulfill their getting to work. Everybody needs to figure out how to get to work. It's not your concern. They can do the job. You need to offer them the job. But it takes a person to be able to make that argument and not cave into the pressures of other people's insecurities or whatever they are. Um, so, you know, in my opinion, it's important to educate the decision makers, the people that are making those hiring decisions. And they're not necessarily the higher ups. It really is the first lines, the second lines, the third lines that are making those hiring decisions, to make sure that they understand, you know, that they can have a lot of discriminatory decision making already into their internal systems that they need to be aware of so that they can make better decisions and truly hire the folks that are qualified to do the job, and be transparent about holding people back because um disabilities that they may or may not understand. So I've been there. I hopefully have made good decisions over my years at AT&T, but we still can do better. This is, we're not there yet.
And you raise a good point, as did Seth, in that there is a big role for allies as well. And so whether you're in the disability community or have experience, or you're in other communities, you can also influence the work culture as well as the greater culture in terms of raising awareness, in terms of questioning internal biases, which we all have, and leveraging those experiences for something that's very positive. So I think we're running a little short on time. Crystal, you can tell me if
Yep.
I'm wrong.
Yep, we need to wrap up.
So I just want to thank our guests today for being so open and sharing their experiences. And I'd like to challenge those who are listening today to go into the communities they're a part of and question whether we're being as inclusive as we can be, and raising the bar to make AT&T a more inclusive culture as well. So thank you very much for your time. Back to you, Crystal.
All right. Thank you all. That was a wonderful, wonderful discussion. So I get the pleasure of the last piece of the puzzle here, announcing our 2022 Brittany King Offered Leadership Award. Without further ado, our winner this year by a landslide is Elizabeth Cole, our Southeast Region President. So congratulations, Elizabeth. We have your award trophy ordered and it will be coming your way soon. Congratulations.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Thank you. That's a huge surprise. I appreciate it. Thank you for the nominations and the votes.
All right. With that, thank you so much for chiming in today and listening to us. This Saturday is International Day for Persons with Disabilities. It's one of the last big observances in our sector for the year. Thank you to all of our panelists. That was just such a wonderful conversation. I'm already thinking we might need to have a part 2 to that discussion. Thank you, Alex, for showing us what may be coming in the future. All of y'all have sent great additional observances in the chat. I just want to preface that with, we are a very small employee group and we cannot celebrate everything. We don't have the bandwidth or the volunteers, but I like all of the additions that y'all want us to make, and we can slowly start adding those into the rotation so that we can give them the focus they deserve. So with that, I want to wish everyone happy holidays. Be safe out there if you're traveling, and have a nice, relaxing, good time while you're on vacation at the end of the year. So thank you, everyone. We'll see you back in 2023.